I'm gonna make a loaf of bread. I haven't done it in a little bit, so I think it's the middle of January, and I haven't done it since like the week of Thanksgiving. So I always end up thinking, okay, am I gonna do something different? I have like a game plan now, blah blah blah. I think this time I have the Banneton, the thing you actually proof it and hold it in. I got smaller ones because I think a smaller loaf would be okay. So I'm gonna do all-purpose unbleached flour. I'm gonna do 500 grams of this and then divide it into two small, approximately 250 gram loaves. So I'm gonna start out with 500 grams of all-purpose flour. I use King Arthur flour. It works pretty well. And that's all I've ever used, so I just keep with that. So it's 500 grams of flour. What I need is 375 grams of water. The thing with this is the water, I want it to be tepid. I want it to be about 95 to 100, somewhere around there. So I need to measure that out. I always use filtered water. So I'm gonna, straight from the fridge, so I'm going to have to warm it up. 375 grams of water. So this is gonna be 75% hydration. For me, that's the one that's worked the best. I've done more, and then I've had trouble with it overproofing. So if I do this, it's a tiny bit, a little bit on the, I don't like to say dry, but it is a bit more manageable. If it's too moist, I've had trouble, like I said, I've had trouble with it proofing. It'll overproof really easily. I think if I were to move up again to like 80, I think I would just have to like barely, just have to sit there and watch it proof basically. So, this is the auto lease. So this is just adding my flour and water together. My starter, I fed about 3 hours ago. It's cool in here. It's about 68. It's pretty cold outside. It's around 35, 38 degrees Fahrenheit now. But this is coming along really well. If you look at the bubbles, it needs a little bit more time, and the glass is slightly cold to the touch, so it does go slower when it's cold. So you want to put your finger in and you not feel it at all. Wash your hands too, by the way. So these are the two major ingredients, flour and water. There's only one other ingredient, and that's salt. Everything else, I mean, you could, some people do egg and some people put milk and stuff like that. That's fine. I don't do that. I like the fact that I can do this because then that means this is a vegan loaf. And I just like that idea. Doesn't mean that that's superior, blah, 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 any of that nonsense. I'm not trying to, it's not a competition. I just want bread. And I haven't done this in a while, and I just like doing it. And it's pretty straightforward. It's just very, very, very time consuming. I will not be baking this bread until tomorrow. It's a Sunday morning, like 11:30 in the morning on a Sunday. Just doing this before the football games today. And I'll be doing it a little bit during the football games, but that's not a big deal. Because you don't really need to tend to it. It's not like, even like a French onion soup or something like that, you have to like tend to it a little bit. I made a wine reduction the other day, and that's just a matter of of watching it, because you don't want it to burn or dissolve too much. See how gooey it is? Work it a little bit before you add more flour to make sure you're okay. See how sticky? When it's that sticky, when it just sticks like that, that's not good. You want it to be, but it's still incredibly early in the process. You literally just saw me put the water in and the flour together. So it's going to be really, really, really sticky to begin with. Work it. Work it for a few minutes. And like I said, this is 500 grams of flour. If you do more, if you do the 1,000 grams, I found it's easier to work with a larger amount of material than a smaller amount for whatever reason. It's not as bad, but this won't go away. So this, water is your friend. Water won't allow it. This is the part where you start to panic and you're like, wait a second, do I have enough flour? Hold off on that as long as you can. I will add, but when you add flour, I only add tiny amounts. So I'm gonna add like a quarter cup of flour, maybe, not even. This is really, really, really sticky. That's the thing with this. If you check 10 people's recipes for sourdough, you're gonna get 10 different answers. There's a basic consensus on how to do stuff, and it just comes over time, really. But it's a lot of vibes. There's something like, if you're cooking certain things where it's more exact, but this really, you just kind of go by feel and through experience. This is only the 89th time I've ever done this over the course of 3 years. There was a point where I was doing it every week, and that's the way you really build a muscle, right? Just like anything else. But it is vibes. You have to kind of feel it out, and just work with it, and then realize like this. Now, when I added this little bit of flour, that's it. That solidified it completely. So that was another quarter of a cup. Add little by little, and this is the only time you can add flour. You cannot, if you screw up, you get to the next step and it's still kind of, ugh. You kind of out of luck, and then you just kind of have to start over. Wash your hands. Make sure that you're comfortable with rubbing your hands together and taking off dough. And it always helps to have the Golden Girls running in the background. I have it on TV. But then when you watch it on TV, though, the commercials are almost as long as the segments of the show itself. So you can always walk away and do what you got to do and still make it back and not miss a second of the show. Ooh. Working all white flour is definitely a different experience than I would do a half and half wheat, half white. My starter is all wheat, but I'm going to use an all white dough, all white dough, because the last time I made it was all white. That was the very first time of doing all white, and it came out really great. To a point where even my wife was like, that was one of the better ones you've made. When I can make my wife actually respond to what I'm doing, then I know, oh wait, I'm onto something. So that was the other thing. I just want to see if I can do it again and see if I can make it so it'll actually taste good. So in the real world, almost 10 minutes has elapsed since I started this process, and now I have a piece of dough that is mostly manageable. A lot of it's on my hands, but a lot of it is from the beginning. So you just, I hate to say, well, you have to go, you kind of do it by vibe, and you kind of, because ultimately that's a lot harder thing to convey rather than say these are regimented numbers that you work on. But I mean, a lot of people just go straight into the starter and feed the starter with like a sugar and an egg or something like that. I've never done that, and I don't feel comfortable doing that. And obviously that wouldn't be vegan anymore. And adding sugar when you don't need it. Almost all the flavor is coming from the starter. So this starter, I started in April of 2023. Now it's January when I'm shooting this, 2026. So having a starter for a while is, I think it's part of the success. So you just kind of have to work with it. So I'm working it. It's still a tiny bit sticky, but not as sticky as it was. It's just gonna be a little bit sticky at this point in the game. So part of this too is letting it rest. So once we do finish this part, which I'm almost done, I think. Oh, having it on your fingers like this is a real freak out moment. This is a part where you don't panic, just trust the process and work on getting your dough. Know that your hands are clean. It sounds silly for me to go, wash your hands, but wash your hands. A lot of people don't. We've figured that out in the last few years, especially in the last 5, that a lot of people don't like washing their hands or just don't wash their hands. Or it's like, come on. You were taught that as a tiny kid. I know I was. Got most of it off. And letting it rest like this to clean your hands is also beneficial. But once we get this step done, we're going to do a proper rest for about an hour. Because the starter still needs a little bit of time to grow. Because we want to catch it on the up. When you feed your starter, know when it's going to peak. So ideally you feed the starter for like a day or 2 before you know you're going to make it. So that way you know how long it takes to peak, depending on the weather conditions, depending on how much you feed it, depending on, time of day and things like that. Know that, okay, my dough peaks in, my starter peaks in, 5 hours. So no, feed it. Okay, I'm going to start making my dough in 5 hours. So you always want to catch it on the up, in the middle of an up if possible, because basically when we add it to the dough, we're feeding it again. Okay. I put my hand underneath it and turn the bowl a quarter turn each time. So I'm just scooping under and turning, and it's coming together finally. You just kind of have to work with it. And like I said, this is a feel. This is a vibe thing. You're gonna fail every now and again. Hopefully not a lot, but I failed multiple times doing this. And you just kind of have to get the feel for it. It's like almost anything else, just gotta practice. So we're almost 15 minutes in. We're 14 minutes into this process, and it's just starting to come together. Okay, so there we go. It looks good, sort of smooth. This is a bowl that's been greased. You could just keep it in the same bowl, that's fine. Cover it with a wet towel. You do not want it to develop a skin, that's another problem. But I just grease a bowl. I just use a separate bowl, just out of convenience, because this one has a lid, and it's easier for me to just do a lid. It's work, but it's very little work, just over a long period of time. So This is set 15 minutes from the time I turned the camera on till right now. It's been 15 minutes. We're gonna put this in the oven with the light on, so it'll be warm, because like I said, it's kind of cool in here. It's about 68 degrees in this room right now. Not terrible, but I want this to stay around 80, if possible, 80, 85. And that'll allow the process to move along a lot faster. So we'll be back in about an hour. Keeping the dough warm-ish. Doesn't have to be anything beyond around 80 degrees or so. It's looking good. It's nice and pale. It doesn't look like much. That's fine, because it's all oh, it came out all in one bunch, because it's white flour, so it's gonna just be pale. So that was 15 grams of salt. I'm recording this the end of, not the end, but just after the middle of January. Today is the 18th of January, and ice must be abolished. That's the baseline. That's the absolute bare minimum of anything. That's any politician who speaks, if they don't say that as just the lowest bar you can reach, should not be trusted and should not be listened to and should be primaried. Just don't know if that's being said enough. I definitely know there's all the big content creators I watch steer clear of politics at all times and worry about making sure you to sell you a nice green drink or some sort of a online health thing. And I don't have any of those burdens. I don't make any money doing this. This is all just done out of love of the game, documenting what I'm doing for my life at this point. And won't have much of a life if this continues the way it does. I'm doing myself a disservice. I don't have any. I like maybe a handful of people will ever watch this. It's not that big a deal. But I want to make sure that where I stand is presented properly, and I'm not ignoring reality, because I gotta live here in reality. The dough is a little bit sticky, but now that I've moved it around a lot, that stickiness is gone. So this is handling really well. And yeah, the idea is to make sure the salt is integrated throughout the entire dough, and to make sure there aren't any little grains of salt or patches of salt, because salt is a vital ingredient. Otherwise, this won't taste like anything at all, and you'll just have a baked piece of dough that has no flavor. And what's the point? It's a tiny bit stickier than I'd like, but I think we're okay. We're gonna add something that's super sticky, so working it like this will take away that stickiness. We're building gluten, and that's what allows the bread to stay strong and have a nice crust on it. We bake it. We won't be baking until tomorrow. So it's 12:40 on a Sunday. I'll be baking tomorrow morning, probably around 9 o'clock in the morning or so. But yeah, gotta work. See, like right here, I just found a patch of salt. Not the end of the world, but you gotta find them. So I'm just lift and tucking underneath, and then turning my bowl a quarter turn every time. and just keep moving it. Shouldn't take too long, but it's not quick, and that's fine. Okay, looks good. Like I said, our starter here smells very nice, has a nice odor to it. I want to add 100 to 115 grams by weight of starter. There you go. If you add a little bit more, it's not the end of the world. If you add more, the process will go faster. So yeah, ostensibly what we're doing is feeding the starter again, or feeding the starter again to our dough. Wow, that came together. I like to keep my starter a little bit dry. I almost turned the water on him. Washed my bowl. So there we go. We have a contrast of colors here. What's going to happen after I take a picture? What's going to happen is we're going to integrate this, and this is going to turn this white to like a beige. I suppose I started with the wheat starter, like I said, back in 2023. I've never thought about changing the starter and using all white. Maybe that's something we'll look into this year. The interesting thing about mixing these two contrasting colors together is you can see how well your mixture process goes. Because, boy, you're going to see it. Look at that. It just looks like a cinnamon roll, like when you roll up a cinnamon roll. See, it's already coming together. You don't see as much. It's integrating pretty nicely. So every minute or so, I just take it and flip it and then start mixing in from the other side and just keep moving. See how it doesn't rip? That's good. We're building gluten. We're building a strength in our dough. I'm seeing the color more broad, just more broadly throughout, I guess. That's how you say it. I think it's almost there. We're like 8 minutes of mixing now. I've never done it with a dough hook. I have a mixer with a dough hook attachment. I've never done it. I think if I do this method, since it's a visual thing, because the other way you just kind of do it by feel and you know, okay, it feels a certain way. This you can literally just see I went from white to beige, or a light brown maybe. Maybe a dough hook would be good. Maybe that's something to try out next time. right, look at that. Over the last minute, I've seen it finally change to a full beige. The strength is very nice. It feels good. It has a nice odor to it now. It smells like the starter fully. So, we're done here. That was over 10 minutes. That was a little over 10 minutes. Still sticky, but resting will fix some of that. Ooh. So take off as much as you can, but it's still kind of sticky. It's a little more sticky than I'd like. And this is 75% hydration, maybe even go like 72, 70. You think 1%, how much of a difference could it be? It does make a difference. 2% difference, like if I went from 75 to 73, would make a difference, a noticeable difference. So, something to think about. When you do this, sometimes it doesn't work. There have been a few times where I thought, hey man, everything's going together terrific. And then it doesn't work. That's happened more than once. It's okay. It sucks, you gotta start over sometimes, but that's life. So, it is a little bit cool, which is fine. We're gonna put it back in the oven, let it warm up again. So, integrated. We're done with our dirty mixing, our dirty parts. We're done with that. I'm gonna put this in the oven, like I said, around 90 degrees for about an hour. Let it rest for an hour, and then we'll get on to our next step, which is folds. My hands are washed, but get the hand wet. And we're gonna do a fold. I usually fold until it gets too tight to give like a lengthy fold. So like one more, maybe two more. It's very, very smooth. That's the other nice thing about a glass bowl. You can just see. So if it stretches out like that, see my gluten, a little bit sticks to my hand, but keep your hand wet. So, okay. Oops. There we go. Okay. So there's like 5 or 6 folds. You don't really, I just do it until I feel that it doesn't need it anymore. And then that's it. Gonna let it sit again for another hour, and we'll be back in an hour to do another fold. We're gonna do this 3 times, so that was the first one. You got 2 more to go. For posterity, I'm watching the Texans game, and I lost track of time. But this is our second fold. It's nice and warm now, so I'm going to just let it be. Ooh. Feels a little bit weird, but it's fine. So yeah, there you go. All right. Looks good, feels good. One more fold in about an hour. Third and final fold. Got some air bubbles in it, everything's looking good. That's a good thing. Feels nice. A lot of the stickiness has gone away. That's good. a good rest. It's still relatively warm. I can feel it because I'm getting my hands wet. Made them really cold, so this feels nice against your skin. It's bubbly. It feels pretty airy, so we don't want to get rid of that. Not until we roll it out and shape it and go for our last move. So we're done with our folds. Everything looks good. Everything's coming along the way it's supposed to. Gonna let this rest for another about an hour, and then we'll get into our shaping. It is much smaller than I have been using. Let's give you a comparison real quick. That fits inside of it. That's the perfect representation. This is what I've been using the whole time I've been making bread almost. And now I'm going to try this, and I'm going to do 2 of them. So I'm going to divide the loaf in half, and then make 2. And yeah, we're going to see how that goes. All right, stretch it out. All right, there we go. So these are going to be smaller loaves. I think that might be a better way to approach this instead of having one and then the ends get burnt. This will sit in the center of the of our Dutch oven here, and make it so they won't get burned as easily. The ends will actually be usable. I think I'm just going to do one on each side. So for posterity, I'm watching this during the Texans game, and they just it's just not their day, and that's that. That's the end of the season for them. They've never been able to get past this level of the game, so not surprising, but they won 10 in a row or 12 in a row, and they just couldn't make it this time. Oh well. So anyway, these are done. Actually, what am I doing? Do I cover them? Yeah, I cover them. That's right. So it's 4:42. I just got distracted by talking about the Texans. It's 4:42. I'm gonna put them in the oven to proof. They'll sit in an oven around 90 degrees, 95 degrees for probably an hour. I'm waiting until they completely fill in and they puff up just a little bit, and then we'll put them in the fridge and bake them tomorrow. But as for right now, we have about an hour, maybe 90 minutes. They're a little bit stickier than I like at this point, but it's fine. And mostly because now I gotta clean my counter. I gotta scrape this off. So we'll put these in the oven, in the proofing oven, and see how it turns out in about 60 to 90 minutes. All right, they've grown. They're not all the way to, this one's a little bit higher. When I've done this before, one is always bigger than the other. So this one's a little bit bigger, the one on the left. So I'll bake this one first, if I remember to put which side to put them in. I'll put them in the same way into the fridge, because we're about to put them in the fridge, and we'll get back to this tomorrow morning. All right, it's the next morning. Let's go ahead and start out here. They look pretty good. There's one that's a little bit bigger than the other, but you know, I'm not too worried about it. So put my pad down. These little suckers are small, so I'm curious to see how they turn out. Did I not grease this enough? I did not. There it goes. Okay. So next time if I use these, oil and flour. I'm gonna put 3 on there. I like the fact that it's not touching anything, so therefore it can't burn as easily. Okay, the next thing is, normally I do it for 22 minutes, so I'm gonna do it for, set a timer for 15 minutes. That should be enough. So 15 minutes covered, and then I take the cover off and I give it another 7 to 8 minutes to put some color on it. But like I said, this worked out okay, but you can see all of the flour is gone. So I floured the crap out of it, not enough. I'll need to do my spray, neutral oil spray, or you can just pour in oil, I guess, if you wanted to. The spray is easier for me. Spray, then flour, so double, so that way it won't stick. It didn't fully stick, but as you saw, it took a little bit of work to get it out, so now we wait. All right, let's go ahead and take this out. I think it needed a little bit more time for color. I didn't think it would need that much, because it is smaller, but it did. Not a problem. There we go. That's better. All right. So another 15 minutes to bake, and then another 10 minutes to color, to add some color to it. All right, this just fell out. That's not a problem. That's why I have these gloves. There we go. Looks really nice. Smells good. It's not burned because it didn't touch the edges at all. It's only brown on the bottom. That's the normal. It's nice and baked. It looks great. This is one of the better ones, I think. Hopefully flavor-wise it's good. grew up instead of out mostly. There's a little bit of a cut right here, but not that big a deal. So 8:37 in the morning, we're done. I'm gonna go ahead and put the other one in, but let this sit for probably around 3 hours or so. Normally I wait 4, but it's usually double the size, so it doesn't take as long. So we're good to go. Let's go ahead and get the other one in. Remember, everything is still boiling hot, so watch your fingers, don't touch anything. Actually, it's beyond boiling hot, it's 500 degrees. This will just burn you terribly in an instant. Oh no! Okay, there we go. Gotta do a different one so that way I'll remember which is which. The pan is still hot. Everything is hot, so don't touch anything without gloves. Let's get going. The searing is because there's that sound is because there's water on the table by the counter, but not a big deal. All right. Set a timer for 16 minutes. I think 16 minutes is better. Give it 16 minutes for it to really make sure everything's okay, and then 10 minutes with the top off to give it color, and that's it. But I really like that. I like the idea of it being smaller and there's not, what do you call it? It doesn't burn. Because not that it's a bad thing, but when it sits on the edge, it just butts up. So this gives it a nicer shape. So now we wait. All right, let's take a look at the other one. The other one I think rose okay. So get my gloves on. Okay, yeah, that looks good. See, one a little bit shiny, that's fun. Looks good. This one looks like I put an egg wash on it. I think that's kind of odd, but that's good. All right. Put that there. So that's off. Make sure none of this was gonna fall. This one, like I said, was a little bit smaller, but it still worked out well. It did rise a decent amount. The slits are a bit open. The same fermentation's there and everything, so I like this size, and the aesthetics of it are nice, and making it all white flour just gives a better flavor. So there we go. Let these sit for and they won't take as long to cool, so let them sit for like 3 hours before you cut into them to finish baking and to let it cool, and that's it.